Welcome, and thank you for being here today as we mourn the death of Gloria Snyder and celebrate her life. To live in this world, we must accept that someday we will have to die. To love what is alive, we must accept having to lose what we've made precious through our care and our love. To be fully and fiercely human, we must accept having to be breakable and sometimes broken. When we stop to notice how someone else's life gave us a path and a little light to see by, it encourages us to help carry that light forward. Though each of us carries forth in this world only a small flame, we know that the ability of that light to brighten the world depends upon the many others who learn to walk with it in their hearts. I light our chalice today with these words. For this hour, as we remember and celebrate the great light that Gloria Snyder brought into this world, may this flame remind us of that radiance and the ways in which it made our own lives grow brighter. Our opening hymn today was the first hymn that was sung at the very first service that this congregation held back in 1965. We sing it today in honor of Gloria Snyder's role as founder of this church. Please rise in body and or spirit and join in singing, "Where is Our Holy Church?" Thank you. Please be seated. Gloria's daughter, Vivian, asked me to read the following eulogy that she wrote. Vivian writes, "Welcome, everyone. I want to thank you all for being here today to celebrate and remember my mom. Thank you especially to our out-of-town family for making the trip here, to our local friends who mean so much, congregation members, and to Jim and Sunny Hill staff for helping to coordinate this service. I also want to thank Sunny Hill's caring team and pastoral care team members who made my mom's last few years so much more comfortable in many ways. Special thanks to Judy Spiegel, Stephanie Hughes, Joe Barker, and Julianne Sullivan for visiting my mom near the very end. Also, I would like to acknowledge her friend Bob Shaw, who became her partner and companion during her last years. She and Bob developed an enviable, warm, and loving relationship as neighbors in her residence at Concordia. Bob told my mom that despite her going blind, he would stay with her until the end, which he did. This touched my heart deeply. As many of you know, she was forced to navigate through almost complete vision loss due to advanced glaucoma during her last 5 years. This made for long days, as you can imagine, not being able to pursue her many hobbies nor most social events, which made visits from friends especially therapeutic. It was hard for those of us around her to watch her have to deal with the frightening reality of losing her sight. So thank you again to those of you who spent some time with her sharing your love and support to help get her through. It is a daunting task to condense 97 years into a nutshell, so bear with me as I try to at least give you some of the highlights. My public speaking skills, Vivian says, are clumsy at best, so thank you to Jim for filling in for me. Vivian continues, as I reflect on her life, and frankly anyone of her generation that lived to be her age, I am struck by the significant amount of change she experienced in the world over the time. For instance, she told me that when she was little, there was no refrigeration. Instead, homes had an ice box. Ice was delivered daily in a chunk, which was placed in the ice box. You then apparently had to check and empty the drip container at the bottom throughout the day, or it would overflow. Cloth diapers and milk were also delivered. She saw the change from horses and buggies to cars, and then, of course, all of the later rapid technological inventions that she admittedly said she could not keep up with, as it was all happening way too fast for her to process. My mom had so many admirable qualities, it makes it hard to know where to begin in order to pay my respects. It seems appropriate to start with acknowledging her role as a founding member of this church, which served as a cherished, extended family to her. When I think about it, she and my dad and her friends could never have known back in 1965, when they held their initial planning meetings, that their new South Hills chapter of the Unitarian Church would grow to be what it is today. It makes me happy that she lived long enough to see how beautifully the renovation turned out and to see the membership growth over the last several years, especially. I find inspiration in their journey to just proceed with what our hearts guide us to do, putting doubts aside, to plant seeds and have faith that with some care and attention, they will flourish. And how wonderful to have such a sanctuary where folks can explore their religious beliefs and spirituality freely in an open-minded, warm, and welcoming community atmosphere. My mom grew up either Lutheran or Methodist, not exactly sure which, but ended up to be truly agnostic. If you asked her if there was a God, she would say, I don't know, but if others believe and find comfort in their faith, then that is fine with me. She and I did talk religion from time to time, even though we held different views. Ours was always a relaxed conversation because she was so non-judgmental. Her being agnostic meant that growing up, my siblings and I never heard, God will provide, or pray to God about your problems, which I expect many parents tell their children when they need comforting. But she had her own unique way of comforting us. Despite being mild-mannered, she modeled an unspoken inner toughness. like a solid, established oak tree that could withstand even the strongest storms. If I came to her with a concern, along with being a good listener, she would then say, "This too will pass." A most wise perspective for our fleeting good and bad experiences. She modeled a strong resiliency during difficult times. My mom lost her second husband, Ralph, with whom she had a quite happy marriage, very unexpectedly. Then we lost our brother, Bob, who died suddenly in his late 50s from a heart condition. I am grateful that I had the opportunity to tell my mom how much she meant to me before she died. I did not have this chance when my brother passed away. Despite these losses, her resilience allowed her to make the most of her remaining years. My mom also had an inner grace and dignity, was kind, compassionate, and genuinely concerned about those less fortunate. My mom was a member of what has been called by some the greatest generation. As such, she exemplified several of their admirable traits. She had a dedication toward service to others and a strong work ethic. She was highly dependable. If she said she would be there, she was, and she would be on time to boot. I don't know what I would have done without her support while my daughter Emily was growing up. She took an active interest in spending time with Emily. I needed to call on her numerous times when Emily was ill with some toddler germ or another. She would answer right away, even if I called at 7 a.m., and she would say, "What do you need?" and would then agree to watch her so that I could go to work. She babysat on a regular basis so that I could have the breaks that every parent needs. She and her generation played tennis and bridge, two activities that require one to be dependable as a foursome is required. During the Capitol campaign the church held before the renovation, she immediately dove right in and started fundraising. Whenever I would talk with her during this time, which lasted a full 2 years, I would say, "How are your fundraising calls going?" And she would say, "I hate it so much asking people for money, but it has to be done." After all was said and done with the successful campaign, she was recognized for having raised more money than anyone else in the congregation. She was also frugal, another trait of the greatest generation, which she took to the next level. Her fiscal responsibility allowed her to retire in comfort. Her frugality, however, made gift-giving a challenge. As just one example, my parents were given a mixing bowl set and a set of knives as gifts when they were married in the 1950s. She used them throughout the rest of her life. At one point, about 15 years ago, us children discussed a birthday gift for her and decided upon a new knife set, as her set had become so dull that we viewed them as an actual hazard. She accepted the gift in her gracious manner. However, later I noticed she wasn't using them. When I asked her why, she said, "Why do I need these when I already have a set?" My mom grew up in a culture where women were more subservient than now. As children, we never heard her once talk back to our father, but later in life, as the women's movement came to fruition, she found her voice, which I got quite a kick out of. She was always still respectful to others, but now found the courage to speak out about issues that were important to her. She became more vocal about her political and social views. She wrote letters to the editor of the Post-Gazette on various topics, and those letters were published in the paper at least a half dozen times. One I remember in particular was advocating for passing safer gun laws, something she was passionate about, along with gay rights and women's rights. And lastly, my mom had a strong creative streak. She was a prolific artist, which stemmed from her ancestry. Her great-grandmother, Jean Dupont, was one of 7 sisters. They were proprietors of a couturier, or dressmaker shop, in Lille, Normandy, France. One sister was the design maker, one the cutter, another the seamstress, one embroidered, one made lace, one did beading, and one was a milliner. Not surprisingly, when my mom's grandmother immigrated to this country and settled in New York City, she became a milliner too, and in turn, my mom's mom made all of her own clothes. Grandma Gigi taught my mom to sew, knit, crochet, and embroider. I have been lucky to be the recipient of many of her artistic creations, including paintings, quilting projects, crocheted items, and numerous other handmade items that have become more and more precious to me as time goes on. She made me curtains for my various apartments several times as I moved about during my young adult years. The workmanship of all of this, in addition to alterations in clothing she did for me, was without fail nothing short of perfect. Everything she made for me or anyone else had every stitch in place. If she made a mistake, she would take the time to rip it out and redo it, taking much pride in her work. She also began taking watercolor painting classes when she retired from her teaching career. She quickly became so good at watercolor that she even sold a few of her paintings. She was an absolute master at the arts of crochet and knitting. She made little outfits for Emily's stuffed animals and dolls just off the cuff without even using a pattern. She made countless baby hats and blankets for newborns, donating them to hospitals. She, along with other talented members from this congregation, was instrumental in putting together the quilts that are hanging in the next room. I feel like my mom was a blessing to her community and am eternally grateful that I had the opportunity to share my life and times with her. We enjoyed putting the slideshow of some family photos together and hope you enjoyed it as well. Thank you all once again for taking the time to join with our family in remembrance of Gloria. There are some potted flowers here up front. We would love it if whomever wants to would take them home and plant them in memory of Gloria. And there ends Vivian's reflection. Thank you, Vivian, for sharing these thoughts and remembrances with us today. And now we will hear from Vivian's daughter, Gloria's granddaughter, Emily.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today to celebrate my grandma, Gloria's life. I'm Gloria's granddaughter, Emily. Thank you to this community for being such an important part of my grandma's life. She loved Sunny Hill with all her heart, and it meant the world to her. I was lucky enough to be her companion to church on Sundays for years, and I will always cherish our time at Sunny Hill together and all that I learned here. I wanted to share a bit about what my grandma meant to me and some of the lessons she taught me over the years. When I think about my grandmother, the quality that most stands out to me is her grace. She was extremely poised, polite, and exceedingly kind. Never once did I see her raise her voice. She listened to classical music, organized her fabrics and threads by color, and hardly ever strayed from her healthy meal plan, unless chocolate was around. I loved seeing what matching outfits she would emerge from her room in and how perfectly her hair would always sit with a fresh perm. She kept things simple, but she always had an effortless sense of class that exuded from her mannerisms and style. This quality of hers always brought me an extreme sense of calm growing up, and something that I aspired to. My grandma was an incredible artist. She taught me how to sew, crochet, knit, and watercolor, just to name a few. And although her handiwork was always absolutely perfect, she never made me feel like mine had to be. She let me jam her sewing machine with my hot pink thread, helped me rip out my crochet projects and start over and over again, and taught me what a seam ripper was. And honestly, sometimes we had the most fun with the seam ripper. She was patient. She was a patient and kind teacher. She never got upset, scolded me, or made me feel like my work was inferior. She taught me that it was okay to enjoy the process, to learn from mistakes, and to trust that it would all eventually come together. And our projects always did, mostly because I had the very best teacher peering over my shoulder. These times with her gave me a huge sense of confidence in my creative abilities and my sense of, and made me feel like I could accomplish anything that I set my mind to. I now find myself channeling her ability to stay calm and not respond with anger when someone makes a mistake. Though I suppose some might call me a drama queen, something my grandma definitely was not, I pride myself on my ability to keep my composure when accidents happen. People in my life have complimented me on this ability, and I always smile with pride knowing that it is a piece of my grandma. As I got older, I became conscious of my grandma's passion for the feminist movement, the environment, LGBTQ+ rights, and more. I feel so lucky to have been raised by my mom and my grandma, 2 generations of women who taught me to spread love above all. Seeing my grandma's enthusiasm for the future of our planet and country and how badly she wanted them to be better for my generation inspired me to fight for what is right and that it will make a difference. Above all, my grandma showed up for my mom and I. Being raised by a single mother had its challenges, though looking back, I was sheltered from many of them. My mom is an extremely attentive caretaker and person, skills that she also displayed during my grandma's later years. She would check in on her almost every day and made sure that she never felt lonely in her time here. That is who my mom is and who my grandma raised her to be. When I was sick in elementary school and needed to be taken home when my mom needed someone When I was sick in elementary school and needed to be taken home while my mom was at work, she was always there. When my mom needed someone to watch me overnight, I always had a bed with my name on it at my grandma's. I think I only had a babysitter one night of my entire childhood. She drove my best friend and I home from middle school and patiently waited for us while we dilly-dallied, getting to the car, talking to boys. She hemmed all my pants, made handmade clothes for my Barbies, and invested in my tennis lessons, cello lessons, and my college education. In her later years, she would love it when I would visit and share stories of my travels, daily gossip, and all the trials and tribulations of becoming a young adult. She was an incredible listener. It brings me peace now knowing I was able to share these details about the beginnings of my adulthood with her, as none of my successes and happiness now would have been possible without her. I'm so grateful to her for all of the support, and looking back, I'm even more grateful for all of this amazing time that we got to spend together. I will cherish these memories forever. I thank you all for seeing the amazing person that my grandmother was and for showing up to honor her life and powerful legacy today. To my grandma, I love you and will carry a part of you with me in every interaction I have for the rest of my life.
In the rising of the sun, we remember.
In the blowing of the wind, we remember.
In the opening of buds, we remember.
We remember.
In the blueness of the sky, we remember.
In the rustling of the leaves, we remember.
As the year starts and it ends, we remember.
We remember.
When we're weary and need strength, we remember.
heart, we remember.
When we've joys we yearn to share, we remember. We remember. So long as we live, they too shall live. They are now a part of us. They are now a part of us. They are now a part of us. And we remember.
We remember. We remember.
Gloria Snyder was one of the members of the ministerial search committee that brought me here to Sunny Hill in 2014. So she was among the first people that I met here, along with other search committee members, Carl Johnson, Melissa Martin, Jay Poland, Doug Reichenfeld, Jay Thornton, and Sarah Yord. During my pre-candidating weekend, when I met with and was interviewed by the search committee, Gloria asked what I thought were some of the best, most important, and on-point questions. In this task, as in all the tasks she undertook on behalf of the church, she was fastidiously conscientious. During my subsequent week of candidating with the congregation as a whole, she tried to protect me from being overwhelmed. When Michael Hennessy, who was the board president at that time, shared with the search committee and me a list of questions that the board planned to ask me during my meeting with them, he included a rather long list of issues that the church had struggled with for many years, some of which were complex and not at all easy to resolve. Gloria responded to this message by saying, "Well, that ought to keep him busy for the next 10 or 15 years. And she was right. I have been extremely busy for the past 12 years that I've been here working on these and other challenges. But Gloria did help me get off on the right foot. In my first few years here, the two of us co-facilitated chalice circles together, and Gloria continued to be actively involved in the life of the church as long as she was able. Gloria was Sunny Hill's matriarch. The very first organizational meetings and services of this congregation were held in Gloria's home. Were it not for Gloria's energetic determination, Sunny Hill would not exist. During her 60 years of involvement, she served the church in virtually every capacity and could always be counted on to do anything and everything she could for this congregation. Reminiscing about the early days of Sunny Hill, Gloria wrote, "As I look back, it amazes me that our lack of preparedness for the enormity that we had take on did not discourage us. We just plunged in and learned from our mistakes. And along the way, we all gained so much. We invited guest speakers, but we also created our own talks and programs, growing in confidence and poise." Gloria went on to write, "I have read that our denomination abandoned the fellowship model because so many of them didn't survive the death of their leader or other setback. So glad we were the exception. We made it and are strong and growing in these otherwise uncertain times, amazing. I am so grateful to Gloria and to the other founding members of this church who willed this congregation into being, who dreamed it, who labored for it, who invested in it, who kept going even when the going got tough, who have passed along to us a strong, vital, ever-transforming church dedicated to justice and compassion that we hope to pass along to those who come after us. There's a spark of light from 61 years ago that shines just as brightly and warmly now as it did then. Each one of us who comes to this place adds our own little spark to the light and makes it stronger, makes it last longer, makes it reach beyond our limited individual dreams, and makes it part of a larger vision that will help illuminate the way for those to come. Each generation, each new member and friend brings a spark of light. I hope and pray that as we continue to work together to build a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls, we will keep in mind Gloria Snyder, and that we will hold her in our hearts in love and gratitude always. May it be so. Amen. We'd like to open things up now to anyone who is present who would like to share a short memory or remembrance about Gloria. Just ask that you come up to the microphone if you can. Is there anyone who'd like to share a Gloria story or remembrance at this time? Come on up. Come to this one if you would. This is the best one.
I was just going to stand up, but that's okay.
It's hard to hear.
I'm not on top, I'm just here for moral support.
Hi, my name is Susie Snyder, and my father was Ralph. So Gloria, what I most remember about Gloria is actually at Christmas time when she told me that it would be better to provide some sort of gift financially to food organizations because you never know that these people who go without food, who are these people? Who are they? And that was really like a light went on in my head. 20-something years old, I had never known not having food. So now I continue that donation in her memory and also in my, in my community, just reaching out. But also Alex and I, when we first got married, we would drive here from New Jersey, and the trip across Pennsylvania, up going through Pittsburgh, the Boulevard of the Allies, across the Liberty Tunnel, will always remind me of our parents and their place at Abbeville Road, and just how nice those days were. They were short-lived. I thought this will go on forever, but it didn't last long enough. Thank you.
Good job, Ben.
Any others? Come on, Maureen.
Hi, Maureen Hulsenbeck and Jerry Hulsenbeck. One of my treasured memories of Gloria is we had an annual meeting years ago, in the 90s, I think, I'm not sure, and we were discussing, should we be a church, remain a church, or be a congregation? And it was an important discussion and a little heated, and Gloria got up and gave her feelings about how we should be a church. And the quiet in the room was astounding. It was like the commercial, at that time there was this commercial where an investment company, when they spoke, and everybody listened. And that's how it felt. When Gloria spoke, people listened. I know I always did. I loved her wisdom, her grace, her calm, and I'm so glad to have known her and have my life be touched by her and her family, all of you.
Yeah. So back in the day, when we used to meet in that room over there, but a lot smaller version of that room over there, there were attempts to try to expand the facility because the congregation was, well, the number of people here would have outnumbered us back then in those days, but the room was always filled. And so there was an attempt. We put a strategy session together, and we had to pick some specific people to help develop the strategy of where we wanted to go and how we wanted to potentially grow. And Gloria was the first person on the list to be picked for that group. I was privileged to be part of that team, and we met at my place for the most part over a 12-month period, trying to put together the strategy at the time. Gloria was always very quiet in the beginning of the meetings and let everybody else talk and absorb what we were telling, what we were saying, and then she would offer her opinions and try to correct us on our misperception on things. She was a delight to work with, an absolute delight. And obviously we expanded that facility there in anticipation of someday. The pool was here, right? The pool was here. We're standing in the pool right now. Of expanding out this way, and that was because of her. It was because of her. She was so thrilled to be part of that team at that time because she started in the beginning part where the biggest thing that was done was they had to put a staircase at the end of the building initially, back when, right? That in order to have it pass code. It was a fire path to get out, right? And that was the big expansion at the time when it was first bought, I guess. But then there was all sorts of challenges that followed that. One of the things that I remember about that room over there, though, was we finally started, when we did the expansion of that room, we started doing pancake breakfast stuff. How many people had ever participated in the pancake breakfast back then? There we go, a lot of good hands. Well, after like the second or third year that we attempted to do this, we were making a mess of ourselves, right? So she said that she would make aprons for us, and she did. And we would call it turtle pancakes, and she made this graphic and did this embroidered turtle pancake aprons that we still cherish, very much so. In fact, this past year, I guess the troop was doing the pancake breakfast, and we brought that apron back with us just to show a few folks. And some of the folks who were working on that, she was incredible to do that. But she said, I'm only doing like 3 of these things because it's taking hours for this. So then she just made cut out little turtles and sewed them on for us. Very clever of her to do that. Maureen and I live in Ohio right now. We're a couple of hours away. And when we heard the memorial service for her was going to be held, we said we absolutely have to be here because she was very special for us.
And obviously, we voted to be a church.
Hello, I am Gail Majeski, and this is my sister, somewhere Maureen Hampton, and we are Gloria's nieces. And sometimes in your memories, you don't realize at the time how important an action somebody takes is until you get later in life. But we lived in New Jersey, they lived in Pittsburgh, and they used to make the long trip, many, many summers, to come to our house. And then we just had so much fun with them. And I remember complaining to her once saying that my siblings, I had my sister Maureen and my brothers didn't want to play with me because I was the youngest. And they always tried to run away from me. And I said to Gloria that, you know, my siblings don't want to play with me. And she goes, oh, well, my children will play with you. So she made sure that I had playmates, and they always played with me. And when they used to draw straws to see who was going to sleep in which bedroom, nobody ever wanted to be with me. And she made sure that that was equalized. So to this day, I really appreciate her for that. She also had a very calming, I'm sure you'll mention that, demeanor. And we didn't always have that in our family. And it was nice to have that. It just was a really nice balance for me to have an aunt that was just like so relaxed. And as Emily said, you always felt like everything was going to be okay with her. So those are my thoughts.
Unfortunately, I think might have been one of the ones that didn't want to play with Gail. So I'm sorry, Gail. It was very immature of me. Aunt Gloria was, I'm going to start crying, but I'm trying not to. She was like a fairy godmother to me. Throughout life, there was always challenges with different things. I ended up being a single parent for many years. And Aunt Gloria came to my rescue a few times and literally saved me when I thought I was not going to be able to go on. So she will always have a very special place in my heart. She was like a second mom to me, and just one of the best aunts you could ever have. Spent all good for her. Thank you.
Any others? Come on, Mark.
My name is Mark Mortimer. My wife, Elizabeth, and I met Gloria the first day that we walked through those doors over there. And just a quick backstory, Elizabeth had just moved from the West Coast. We were two young lovebirds trying to figure out life and all that stuff. And we thought maybe there was marriage in our future, and we should probably think about like getting the logistics are of that happening. So we were raised in two different faiths, and we decided to go church shopping. And we had spent probably 2 months in the South Hills and the North Hills visiting churches, and each one, our experience was worse and worse and worse. And as young adults, we were like, what are we doing wrong, right? And it was a disaster. Every experience that we had on Sundays was just an absolute disaster. And we started rethinking the whole marriage thing. Like, maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe it's not as important. And we didn't know anything about Unitarian Universalism. We were living in Bethel Park at the time. We used to zip up and down going into the city here. And we thought, well, let's just give it one last try here. And we walked in, and Gloria was working the door, and this was in November, so it was cold. It was getting cold in Pittsburgh, and she was just this. Reverend Jim mentioned this spark. She was just this incredibly authentic and positive, and greeted us at the door, and immediately started to introduce us to people in the foyer as we walked in. And it was overwhelming in a really positive way, especially with our experiences the 2 months prior. And we sat down, and the service began, and it was one of those feelings that we have 5 minutes into the service where I looked over at Elizabeth, she looked at me, we both were smiling, we were sort of tearing up, and we had goosebumps, and we just knew that this was it. This is where we needed to be. And we've thought about that a lot over the last 30 years. It was Gloria. It was that brief, 5-10 minutes of just chatting with her where I think we were looking for something and we really couldn't define what it was. And it was her. It was that experience where there was someone authentic that just connected with us, and the rest is history, as they say. After service, Gloria found us again, and she started to just introduce us to everyone. What came from that over the last 29 years has been our involvement with this church, because she really believed in and led by example of being engaged in the church. And as Reverend Jim also mentioned, none of us would be in this sanctuary had it not been for her efforts. So I see Margaret Hampstead back there. Margaret and Elizabeth and Gloria made that capital campaign happen. And Gloria was tenacious. And it just is who she needed to be when she was engaged at that level. That was not who she was, 99% of the time. And I just think about how many people that she had touched over the years. And, it's so great seeing her daughter and granddaughter here in front of me, and the rest of her family and friends, and know that she has a very, very large family here with so many people that she's impacted, and we're just gracious that we had a chance to know her for as long as we did, so thank you.
Hi, I'm Scott Smith. I've been a member here for 30 years or so. I'm an artist and a member of the art committee, which Gloria helped to found, and who provided the consistency over the years as the secretary and co-chair for years and years. And I forget exactly what the art committee did before we built this new wing. But once the wing, the sanctuary was in place, with her consistency and direction, established a visiting artist program, and a rotating exhibit in the hallway. And she provided the consistency, and every month we would have our meetings. She would write the notes, and when she could no longer drive herself to the church to attend the committee meetings, she invited the committee to have their meetings over at her place in Concordia, where which we continued for a number of years. So she, I think, also provided the idea that art is an essential component of Unitarianism. And I thank her for that.
My name is Judy Spiegel, and I'm a member of Sunny Hills Pastoral Care Team. I'd heard about Gloria. I only joined the church like 7 years ago now, but she was both famous and infamous in her presence. And when Vivian requested that, was there anybody that could come and help her in the transition to Concordia and another level of care, I jumped at the chance. And she was a force to be reckoned with. The task assigned at the very first time was to help her sort through all of her stuff, which Vivian had already done with her, because she wanted to make her own choices and needed to get things squared away. And so I assumed that role with her, and I grew to love her. I loved my time with her. I loved my visits with her. I felt lucky to be there. She was a remarkable, remarkable person. And I think she passed on a lot of her specialness to Vivian, because Vivian had been there for her and was exhausted, had done so much, and she was very appreciative of my presence and made that known, and we had a kind of texting correspondence with what was going on and involved her in all the decisions. But I watched her decline. It was a year and 4 months that I spent weekly time with her, sometimes more, sometimes less. And the end was heartbreaking. She so much was ready to die. And she was wanting to go, and I was very tied into her by then, and we would, as she would not complain, as she would become sorrowful about her loss of vision and why was this happening to me and all of that, we would cry together, and that was kind of one of the best things yet. She knew how to give a hug. She knew how to be honest and open about what was going on. So my background is in hospice and end-of-life care, and she provided me a whole nother education about what that was all about. And I thank her for that. And I thank Vivian for the remarkable care that she gave to her mom for all those years before.
We'll have an opportunity for more informal sharing of memories and stories in a reception in just a few minutes. But for now, we're going to move on. This is an opportunity for anyone who feels moved to do so to light a candle. This is one of the rituals we have in this congregation. As we sing our hymn, "We Would Be One," we invite anyone who is so moved to come forward to our candle lighting station, light one of the candles, place it in the sand, and then return to your seat in honor of the great light that Gloria Snyder brought into this world.
We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love, to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true.
to service with love and justice, strive to make us free.
In a few minutes, I do hope you'll join us for a reception in the fellowship hall as we share more stories and memories about Gloria. There's also a slideshow of photographs that is looping in the fellowship hall that includes some that we didn't get a chance to put in the slideshow and here, so I hope you'll check that out. We'll also walk down to the memorial garden in the back of the church a little while later to scatter Gloria's ashes and dedicate a memorial plaque installed in her honor. If you do go down to the memorial garden, please watch your step, some uneven ground and loose flagstones in that area. For now, we'll close with these words. Let us honor the life of Gloria Snyder by living ourselves more nobly and lovingly in the days ahead. As you return to the routines of your lives, go in peace, and may an abiding peace go with you.